Martin Popoff here. Welcome back to another episode of the Contrarians. This is another solo show. We've got this kind of loose concept where we go, the Contrarians presents, and this is, believe me, this is about as loose a concept as you can get here. So, we've never done anything really like this before, but I thought this was just kind of like a cool flight of fancy sort of show. I recently went on Sea of Tranquility with Pete Pardo on my regular Friday morning slot. Love doing that with Pete. But basically, we looked at Glam and we said that there wasn't really much from America that really feels like a Glam thing. So I had to go through all the American bands, and they were all qualified as being not very Glam. So this Glam thing that we're talking about here, we're talking about the original Glam, the UK Glam. That's the other thing we came up with. You know, you think of that original UK Glam or glitter rock scene as being 1970 to 1974, but you could almost hammer it down to like 71 to 73 or 72 to 73 even. And, it's populated by bands like, closest to the bike wheel concept, David Bowie, T-Rex, Mott the Hoople, Sweet, Slade, Mud, maybe later on Bay City Rollers. You've got your Gary Glitter and your David Essex in there. Who else? Hello and Hush and all those guys. Sweet's a funny one. We came up with this idea how Sweet essentially sat it out with albums. They had a lot of singles that were part of this thing. But the cool thing, Pete made this one comment at one point when I was going through the Alice Cooper thing and talking about the fashion and stuff, and I'll do that a little bit here. He said, boy, you could make one really good Glam album from the Alice Cooper catalog. So that's the challenge here. So what I'm doing, we're going to call this something like the Contrarians Presents I built the ultimate UK Glam album from the Alice Cooper catalog, ! You can call this album that I'm going to propose here because I looked at it and it's like really, really true. You could do this. And I won't give it away, but I'm thinking of doing this with a couple other bands as well. So you can call this possibly The Rise and Fall of Vincent Furnier and the Spiders from Phoenix. What do you think of that? Because this is really that sort of an album. So yeah, the idea here is even though Alice Cooper and the whole Glam thing doesn't really sit well with anything from America, I mean, there's problems with New York Dolls, there's problems with Alice Cooper, there's problems with anybody else you can think of. And there really aren't that many. Kiss, Runaways, Angel, I don't know. Lou Reed, Iggy and the Stooges. We went through all of them and figured out why nobody really belongs to this thing. But so Alice Cooper, I just wanted to show what I showed on the show, which was basically, they're coming from this California Glam sort of situation where, they're raiding the costume shops of or the costume departments, over in LA as they're living there. Their girlfriends are making their costumes for. I mean, they have long hair and they're wearing some really glammy stuff, but they really don't fit. Here they are here and they're looking kind of dark. Another thing I won't give away, but I'm thinking of building another one of these albums for a different concept with Alice Cooper. But I just wanted to go through what I would consider this Alice Cooper, The Rise and Fall of Vincent Furnier and the Spiders from Phoenix album to look like. So, okay. So we kick off with Under My Wheels. Under My Wheels is basically Suffragette City. It's basically like the hardcore of the Ziggy Stardust album sort of thing. The other thing about this Glam thing is that they had a real affinity for old time rock and roll. There was a rock and roll revival thing going on with the Teddy Boys and the Rockers and all that stuff. And, we'd soon be into like Grease and Rocky Horror Picture Show and American Graffiti and Happy Days with the Fonz and all that, right? So this whole rock and roll revival thing really fit in really well. So Under My Wheels is perfect for that. It's got a little bit of 60s, a little bit of 50s. It's kind of heavy. It's a perfect one to kick off side one of this album. Be My Lover we go into next, which is basically a Sweet Jane thing, right? So you got Velvet Underground into Lou Reed, those dependable Louie chords, as I call them. Be My Lover is just a perfect kind of Lou Reed song. So that's your number 2 track. So you're totally entertained at this point. No More Mr. Nice Guy. We go into next. So No More Mr. Nice Guy is sort of it fits that whole a little bit of like standard somber suburban, housewifey, just general rock and roll that feels like an up-tempo David Bowie song. So we've got that. So the first three tracks are pretty hard hitting. Then we go into Generation Landslide. Now with this one, I feel like you're picking up a little bit of the T-Rex feel of this original UK glam thing. You've got the tribal military snare. It's kind of a sparse song. You've got the acoustic guitar. So yeah, I think that's one that kind of mixes things up a bit. It gives you that, hippie with bongos sort of, duo Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of a feel. And then we end the side a little bit pensive, a little bit David Bowie going back into Man Who Sold the World kind of terrain, Space Oddity, that sort of feel. The lighter stuff, the lighter and darker stuff from David Bowie with the Ballad of Dwight Fry. Again, it's a little darker, but it is basically Starman. I mean, it's same thing with the acoustic guitars and that kind of production with it. Same kind of electric guitars mixed in with the acoustics. We're in 1971 here. It's kind of perfect. So this is from the Love It to Death album. So there's your side one. Three bangers to get to get the party going, to make this glam glitter thing a happy place. And then we've got a T-Rexy one, and then a more pensive David Bowie. Over to side two of The Rise and Fall of Vincent Furnier and the Spiders from Phoenix. We kick off with Hello Hooray. Big cinematic. It's about showbiz. It's very Ziggy Stardust. It's very conceptual. It's got the pianos in it, that chorus. I mean, it's more Tony Visconti than it is Bob Ezrin, essentially. Then we go into Elected, just to bring the kind of heavier side of this whole thing, but you've got the horns mixed in as well. The heavier side would be your likes of heavier Slade or certainly Sweet. So this leans it a little bit that way. But frankly, this album's coming out very Ziggy Stardust and not very heavy. I could have made a heavier Alice Cooper one, but I didn't feel like the heavy Alice Cooper songs are quite glam enough, quite glitter rock enough. So I think this makes a better, direct, absolutely classic glam album from basically 1972. Then we go into Isn't My Body, kind of sexy and sparse with that, it's kind of like a little bit Lou Reed, Walk on the Wild Side, not much of a sort of a riff or rhythm to it sort of thing. But yeah, kind of rhythmic without a rhythm, if that makes any sense. But again, it's very sparse. But yeah, kind of like sexy and seductive sort of thing. Then we go into Teenage Lament 74. And again, this is up tempo with acoustic guitars. You get some female backing vocals. Remember, part of that glam scene as well, you can almost put the Faces in there and Rod Stewart, so you can have a little bit of lean into Rolling Stones-ness, right? The Rolling Stones they adopted the glam clothes and stuff too. A lot of this is a fashion thing, this glam thing, right? But so Stonesy music was never particularly glammy, but there's a connection to it with that old time rock and roll thing. Bowie does a lot of Stones. There's a lot of Stones in glammy Bowie, but there's a lot of Stones in this Teenage Lament song too. And like I say, it's got the female backing vocals as well. And then we end off the album with Sun Arise. So Sun Arise, we go back to the Love It to Death album. And this is even more T-Rex and hippie with bongos sort of thing. This is like literally a hymnal to the sun kind of thing. So it's like a Stonehenge song, just to close off and send you off on that sort of on that light hippie stoner, pot smoking vibe sort of thing. So yeah, a whole different feel to this. But again, the same thing with side two. It starts off strong and rocky and rock and rollsy, and then goes into and then ends on this note the same way as Ballad of Dwight Fry. And frankly, across these records, I could have picked a few more that go in this direction, but Alice Cooper also had kind of a dark Doorsy thing, which doesn't really line up with this. But man, definitely this 10-track album, The Rise and Fall of Vincent Furnier and the Spiders from Phoenix, is, I would say, let's go out on a limb and say it's the greatest UK glitter rock album of all time. There you go. Go put together a Spotify playlist on this or whatever. Tell me what you think. Tell us what you think in the comments below. We've got a Patreon situation. You can subscribe to that. That gets you onto our panels sort of thing. Where we do these Dark Horse panels and all that. For my books, you can go to martinpopoff.com. Of course, I have a recent thing that happened is my old Alice Cooper book got broken into two smaller trade paperbacks. So there's one on the original Alice Cooper band. It's basically a timeline with quote situation. So the first one's called Easy Action, the original Alice Cooper group or band, and the second one is called Feed My Frankenstein, Alice Cooper the Solier. So that's martinpopoff.com. But yeah, let us know what you think. We've got merch as well with the Contrarians, and there you go. Go play this greatest glam album of all time.